one go I flung the lid off. Ooh, that's not how it looked last time. Hello, this is Artistic Boyfriend doing here. Welcome back to the Who is a Red Queen? Maybe the last episode. I'm presuming it'd be the last one. Oh yeah, we have to decide where to go, don't we? Here, what's up? Yeah. Who do I see? The Hatter. Looking around, I found that I was at the Hatter's place. Ah. I started to talk only for my throat to feel like sandpaper. Each time I blinked, my eyelids grew heavy again, a chill ran through my whole body. Uncomfortable, that was all I could say that I felt. Although I had experienced quite a bit since coming to Wonderland, I had not thought I would catch a cold. Certainly that fight with the cat had battered me up. Don't speak, Alice. You're burning up, so no tea for you today. It must still have been tea time for it was always tea time. However, today the Hatter decided to put the tea aside even at tea time for the sick me. She brought a cup of water to my lips, tilting it for me to drink. I drank and choked. Coughing and sputtering, I felt her wipe away the water that had spilled. If you drink too quickly, you'll drown. She handed me the cup directly, fingers just barely avoiding mine, but also grasping the lit cup firmly till she knew that I wouldn't drop it. Drink water slowly, Alice. I've got to get something off the stove. See that I had the cup in hand, she hopped off in the direction of the stove. I thought back to when we first met. At the time, the thing on the stove had been a hammer, so I hoped that she would bring back something more pleasant. I sipped from the water cup and waited, setting it aside once I finished. She returned with a big bowl of porridge in hand. Sitting down next to me, she scooped up a spoonful of porridge and blew it lightly to cool it down. As the porridge temperature settled, she moved the spoon toward my mouth. I instantly opened my mouth like a baby bird. I can eat myself. I'd rather you not cannibalize yourself. She fed... I just got that. She fed me porridge spoonful by spoonful. Once the porridge was finished, she put the bowl away and gave me another cup of water. Letting me sip the water, and she wiped away the sweat in my forehead. You're good at taking care of people. Really? I never quite had. My words drifted off into silence as I thought back to what little I had to say about taking care of others and being taken care of. Hatter, the limb. I'll put it away for you. You know me so well, Hatter, and I could barely keep my eyes open. Rest well. The Hatter placed his cool, trembling hand on my forehead. Then into the realm of hypnosis I fell. After a few days of good rest under the Hatter's care, I recovered to full health. I hadn't been so sick in years. Thank you, Hatter. What for? Don't lay too long at this crowded place. Off you go. Don't you have some body parts left to find, Alice? So I do. Seeing me once more healthy, she shooed me away. The Red Queen was nearly assembled, missing only her head and a fourth limb. Well, I know where the head is, though. Onward, I continued on my search so that she could send me home. I took out the invitation that the White Rabbit had delivered to me. Running my fingers against the paper of the envelope and the imprint on the wax seal, some sort of animal, I tore the invitation open. Inside, I found a card and read it to myself. Alice, the Duchess requests the honor of your presence at her ball. Today, tomorrow, time eternal. The Duchess' estate, the manor. You are required to bring a companion. Flipping the card over, I noticed something of a crudely drawn map. I followed the lines on that and somehow pinpointed where I was in relation to the manor. I held nothing to bring to a party, nor did I have a readily available guess. I pondered about whether I should go or not, seeing as that I could put it off indefinitely, but with the Red Queen's parts still missing, perhaps someone there would know. The Duchess should have been close to the Queen, for example. That at least the tutors I mentioned. As for the +1, I might order to a few acquaintances in Wonderland. Here's the thing. You'd think I'd choose the Hatter, right? Something tells me the Hatter's not going to be very well accepted. So go with the White Queen. And read the White Queen, feeling that she would be most fitting a guest to a noble's ball. White Queen, won't you accompany me to a ball? I'll attend if you would like me to. I'm not much for parties, but this once with you will be all right. To whose ball and when? The Duchess's ball. The White Rabbit gave me an invitation to what she claimed to be an endless party. I took out the invitation and let the White Queen see. The Duchess's ball. Then we should be in no hurry. Alice, would you like to try on a dress? It seems fitting that we're going to a ball, but you might not have one, as you aren't from around these parts. At my notch, I had a whole wardrobe of dresses and accessories brought out, and let me try them on. Lace and frills, silk and cotton, ribbons of various colors, and glittering gems. What a variety. Not a single thing had been touched or worn before, as if unwanted gifts. They were pretty, but not quite her. You might understand why children like to doll up pretty girls. I'm not particularly. We tried a number of different outfits. I changed into the next dress, a red dress. Feeling the comfortable fabric on my skin, I twirl around to feel the dress. It suits you, Alice. It does, doesn't it? For a moment, her gaze went far, far away. But perhaps not today, must I wear a dress? I did not plan to be here for long enough to deal with the consequences, even if I particularly offended anyone. My plan was and continued to be to gather the Red Queen to leave. Therefore, if it would realign her gaze, then I'd prefer not to wear a dress. No, you need not worry about a dress if you prefer not to. The Duchess won't be bothered. I did say that I could see the future, did I not? Let me reassure you of that, Alice. She too seemed relieved that I chose not to wear this dress. The dress must have been tailored for someone special, as it didn't match the White Queen at all. I changed back to my own clothes, feeling my cloak snug around me. This suits me best. In exchange for that fun, will you allow me to do your makeup? I don't see why not. Fairy servant slugged over a makeup kit, bowing to me and her as they set it down. I looked at her face, the curve of her jawline, the shape of her lips. Seeing her up close, I felt a little flustered because she was so pretty. With the tools given, I traced over her features. Alice, was she not already perfect? What was there to even cover up and make more beautiful? Truly, this was my white bird. Whose? Not one to ruin her features. I drew very little on, only dusting a light layer of blush on her cheeks. My hand hesitated. She shuddered when the brush tickled her. Fiddling with the makeup tools, I retreated. That should be all. I didn't poke you, did I? I felt not a thing at all. Alice, you are in fact a very gentle person. The fairy servant brought her a mirror and called with a simple gesture from the White Queen. Looking upon my handiwork, I found that she looks no different from before, pretty and white. Still, she seemed pleased. As I decided not to dress up, the White Queen chose to do the same. Shall we go? I sent a hand toward her. Certainly. She called a carriage, a pretty crystal thing whose coachman sat invisibly with but a shadow. The horses, too, were nowhere to be seen, like fairies. We entered the carriage and off it went. Looked outside the window, seeing familiar yet unfamiliar scenery. Some places I've never passed by, even when coming to her garden. Look at that castle. Our ride stopped amongst a number of other carriages alighted, helping her down, and we walked up to the Duchess's manor. A guard stopped us at the entrance. Halt, please show your invitation card. I handed the guard the card. He looked it over, glancing at me and the White Queen before stiffening in surprise. Your Majesty, the White Queen? Making eyes toward another guard, the guard gestured and led us inward a few steps to the entryway. The guard's fellow quickly darted inside as if to report the appearance of a rare visitor. To enter, guests must provide an arm. The arm will be returned to you whenever you wish to leave the party. An arm? A limb? The guard nodded. Yes, I'm afraid I cannot make an exception for anyone. Why did... Red... An arm and limb. Apparently I had one I could obtain from the Mad Hatter. I glanced toward the White Queen, thinking of how I had never mentioned the Hatters in my agreement, that agreement of blasphemy and lèse-majesté. For reasons unknown, I felt strongly that the White Queen knew more about the Red Queen's dismemberment than I did. How she did not lie about knowing the future. Unless, of course, she did. Let's go ask the Hatter. The Hatter, the one who lives in the woods and cannot sing. Aha, there are many Hatters in Wonderland. Perhaps there were, just not many satisfactory enough. Without asking further questions, she followed my lead to go find the Hatter. Arriving at the Hatter's place, I found the Hatter having her usual tea time, chatting with puppets on her hands. She spotted us, sitting straight in her seat, seemingly surprised at seeing the White Queen. A darkness stirred in her mismatched eyes as she saw my guest. Your Majesty, the White Queen? No room. 3, 4, 5. 5's enough for all the people in this world. Don't be so rude to Her Majesty, the White Queen. You wouldn't want your head to go flying again. I didn't bother to take a seat. this visit knowing that if I were to lounge in my armchair, I will stay here with the Hatter for much too long. We aren't here for tea, Hatter. A real shame, but rather an arm preferably detached from anything else. Yes, Hatter looked down at her own limbs. One of that person's would suffice. We only need to borrow one for a bit. An arm would be appreciated, Hatter. Is it so? Your Majesty, you'd like to borrow a limb? I'm surprised. After all, you were the one who did that. Did you lose it? What I mean to ask is, did you lose your trash? I have no idea what you're talking about. Huh. Interesting. I forgot that it was supposed to be a secret. I suppose I shouldn't show my gratitude and instead reflect on my rudeness and my sincerest apologies. Sorry, ma'am, didn't mean to mention the choppity chop. Our heads haven't been the same since they fell off the first time. A bit of an open secret, don't you think? I ask you not to speak of the matter. I understand. Our lips are sealed. Just tighter than tight. Regarding that arm, Hatter, of course, Alice, you are the one who found it. The Hatter hopped over to the dog cage and kicked it open, pulling an arm out like a bear fishing from a stream. She held it far from her as it began to flail and chucked it my way over the table. Then flew an uneven arc through the air, forcing me to dash toward the piece of meat. I just barely caught it in my arms, nearly stumbling into the White Queen who stood near me. Her arm. The White Queen's eyes bored into the severed arm with distorted intensity. Bring it back later, Alice. I will. Saying goodbye to the Hatter, we returned to the Duchess's manor. The guards greeted us, and we handed over the arm we retrieved. His gaze lingered on the White Queen, ascertaining the validity of the arm as an entrance fee. Even he must have noticed that she seemed reluctant to part with the limb. The guard handed over our entrance fee off to a servant who put it into a sealed box, took it away for safekeeping nonetheless. Go, please enter, esteemed guest. We arrived at the Duchess's ballroom. Although the hostess was nowhere to be found, servants milled about the floor with refreshments for the guests. A quartet performed in the front. Food set at the table to the sides of the room. All around were faceless people dressed up like clowns. The moment the White Queen set foot through the room, all heads turned toward her. The horde approached us, circling around the White Queen so that she could not easily escape. Yet they kept their distance as if gazing upon a rare zoo animal. Greetings, Your Majesty, the White Queen. Have you been well? We have nothing but gratitude for all that you have done in this kingdom in the face of tyranny. I'm just realizing they're hiding one arm. They have one arm, and they're hiding the other arm. They're hiding it. Her Majesty was... Oh no, was this still a difficult topic to speak of? In Jacob, if you speak of the devil will appear. Her Majesty, won't you come visit the Marquisdom? Your white hair is as beautiful as snow today. No wonder you are so adored. Your beauty was such that even she was so enamored with your presence. She was... we shouldn't speak of her. I wish I could touch your skin. You did us a good deed. A paragon of virtue the heavens must sing your praises. You are truly the queen of the divine right to watch over Wonderland. It must weigh heavily on you to take such a drastic measures. But what are your plans now on the empty throne? The rabbit, an animal, still thinks that she can be found. This is what we get for letting Berman rise up the ranks, but no one else wanted to be in that position. You say that because you're incompetent. Truly, this kingdom might fall into disarray, Your Majesty. Do you have any intention for who should be delegated to rebuild Wonderland? You work so hard, so why not take good rest and let others do the dirty work? My husband is always... Your husband isn't exactly here right now. Wasn't he banned from making a ruckus? Your Majesty, please don't take offense, but I know a wonderful place. Brilliant volcanic springs to recuperate from being locked away for so long. If you consider my brother... White Queen... My hand brushed against hers. I was sick of hearing all the drivel leaking from the faceless crowd's mouths like half-chewed slop. She nodded. We must go see the Duchess now to talk about matters of the Red Queen. Upon mention of the Red Queen from the White Queen's mouth, the pigs surrounding the White Queen collectively gasped and took a few steps back. Could it be? nodded ambiguously, causing them to scatter with one excuse or another. Soon a servant approached, telling us that the Duchess was ready to meet us in the parlor, that we could head over as soon as we wanted. I spoke too soon. Was that simply a bluff to make them back away? Yes. It may be just as well that we meet with the Duchess because you are searching for the Red Queen to find your way home. Shall we, Alice? I find the White Queen. Follow the White Queen through the manor hallway, glancing left and right at a familiar unfamiliar. Alice, the Duchess must have redecorated. What unspokenly good deed have you done that the swine, those nobility, would not leave you alone, White Queen? Absolutely nothing. She stopped. I stopped. The Duchess welcomes you. I didn't know. The little step forward. I can't read. Fuck. The guard before room bowed and opened the door, letting us into the Duchess' parlor. Inside sat a featureless woman who hid her face, instinctively that she was ugly, yet I could not see anything. No, not disfigurement nor beauty. I perceived her. She was the Duchess. Welcome, Your Majesty, the White Queen, and when did you go by now? Yes, Alice. The Duchess looked at the White Queen before glancing towards me, returning a sense of pity towards us. Your heart is so entangled. You didn't come to me for that advice, beloved White Queen. I believe you wanted to speak to me about her. Dearest Majesty, the missing Red Queen. Yes, it's Alice's matter. We told the Duchess about the circumstances. I fell into this world unknown and was seeking out the Red Queen in order to find a way home. I left out the part where the Red Queen was dismembered, but the Duchess already knew that. You are searching for the Red Queen, but the Red Queen has been dismembered. To even request aid from her, you must reassemble all of her pieces. As it so happens, I have her left leg in my possession. I kind of figured. In that case, would you give it to us? I will be giving it to a pair of guests at today's ball. It would be unfair for me to hand it over to you when another pair would have had to show their prowess to earn the limb. I will offer something in exchange. You've done nothing to offer. You've nothing to offer, nor you have a true desire to meet our dearest Majesty again in this form or another. Of course, these are only my own thoughts. Forgive me for assuming, but I cannot give you the limb like this. Other than letting her offer something in exchange, would it not be better for me to do something as the person searching? What could convince you to give up the limb, Duchess? I will hold a little game today, and if you win, the limb will be yours. A game. Yes, a game. Our dearest Majesty loved her games, even if they were much too often cruel games with no winner, not even herself. I'm sure that Her Majesty the White Queen remembers. Now, will you not do me a favor, Duchess? No, not even for you, Her Majesty's most beloved. The White Queen looked away. Finding little more we could say to convince the Duchess, we left the Duchess's parlor, seen off to the door by her. We returned to the ballroom to wait. The quartet continued playing. The previous crowd saw the troubled look on the White Queen's face and decided not to approach, only watching her from afar. Dancing pairs filled the floor. The White Queen eyed me as if she wanted to request something. When I turned to her questioner, she pretended to look at the refreshments. Do you like dancing? Just normal amount. You needn't feel restricted by me. I'll be fine by myself if you would prefer to have a dance or a few now that you're here. Alice, what is it? I invite you to dance. I took her hand and we went toward the dance floor. The next song started. Tap, tap, step, step. Practice sequence of footwork, moving across the room at the rhythm of the music. We danced while gazing into each other's eyes. Without even saying what we should dance, we just danced. I took Alice's part. She took the White Queen's part. There was nothing more. Feeling ambitious, we twirled her around, chuckling as she grew a little flustered when I caught her. I saw a strange expression, as if she had expected something different, but the smile that flowed into her eyes reassured me that I hadn't done wrong. The White Queen was always looking somewhere else, perhaps to the future, perhaps to the past, perhaps to a person who wasn't here, even though we were here right now. This was our dance alone. Thank you. No, I enjoyed that. Can't we dance together again one day? Perhaps one day we should. Music stopped along with the dancing. It was at this time that the Duchess made her appearance. Behind her was a servant carrying the severed leg under a red cloth. Tonight we have a special gift to be given to a single guest. A hushed whispering ran through the ballroom as all the guests guessed at what the White Queen and I had already learned. We are holding a chess tournament, the usual game that ends when the king has fallen, even here where the king has long gone. Of course, the winner will receive the prize. The servant removed the cloth all around the guest under a collective gasp. What, you may ask, why? It could only be our dearest Majesty's leg. May the best strategist win. The Duchess clapped. The servants began to move out, setting up tables and chess sets in a matter of minutes. With a matchup list created, the tournament started. Here was an exercise left to the reader. If given a game and a player terribly good at a game, what would happen? Naturally, that player would win, and win again. To my surprise for this game, the chess player who was terribly good was the White Queen, even with the handicap of Alice as a teammate. Made our way to the finals where we met with the last opponent not at a table, but in a cleared out space of the ballroom with a large chessboard overlaid. The last opponent was the Duchess. Around her lined up stood 1 1/3 dozen soldiers dressed up in black like chess pieces. Human chess. Okay. Our dearest Majesty enjoyed watching games like this. One of you two have to take the role of a piece, and otherwise I will provide the other pieces for you to play with. Please take your time to decide. Those blades of the Duchess's black pieces would look heavy and sharp and dangerous. Alice, let me. You get hurt, White Queen. I would say the same to you, but at the very least the Duchess would hesitate to hurt me, for I am the White Queen. However, you are Alice. I know. In that case, we stood at a standstill for so long that the Duchess had a set of white pieces shuffle in and take their spots on the board. None of us had to be the human chess piece. I mean, do you get to move as the piece, or are you just being commanded by the other person? I mean, at least that makes sense. Why it's like a double team kind of thing now. Let me. I was at best mediocre at chess, even if the tutors had smacked basic strategy into me, so I preferred to trust the White Queen instead to command the board. That's what I was saying. She acquisted. I don't fucking know. Making me take on a pawn's position as I obtained a sword for my role. I spectated about what strategy she would formulate. The White Queen started with the first move, directing the pieces here and there, moving me carefully as well. The White Queen captured the Duchess's black pieces with ease. Coming here with this girl who so resembles her, Your Majesty, the White Queen, I wonder what you tend to do. No way I understood. She was so terribly, terribly bright, so bright that she would burn away. A brilliant and terrifying person that I could not help but watch. However, regardless of who this girl is, are you still unable to look away from that person? The Queen stumbled, sacrificing a bishop in a position she had not meant to order him toward. No. Is it so? Not very good sportsmanship to say such things during a match, Duchess. Fair, then let us say nothing unrelated to the match. Of course, you are a piece on the board, so you two must stay silent, as chess pieces do not talk to their players. Thank you, Alice. Another acknowledgement. Keep my mouth shut as per the Duchess's rules. She moved me all the way to the other side as pawn, one of the most disposable pieces on the board. I was oddly enough kept perfectly safe. I promote Alice to Queen. Motion from pawn to queen consisted of handing me a flimsy white crown and a new sword. With a handful of moves, the White Queen desolated the Duchess's black chess army, rendering the Duchess's side nearly empty. My queen maneuvered me to the Duchess's black king. One last move, we would win the game and obtain the Red Queen's leg. Checkmate, Duchess. I cut down the black king, wondering why the sensation of my blade hitting flesh felt from... Okay. The Duchess clapped her hands. Congratulations, this is my loss. Even facing my challenge fair and score, you have ultimately obtained the Red Queen's limb. I wish you the best of luck, gathering your parts for better or for worse. I am in no position to stop you, not even when Your Majesty the White Queen approves. If our dearest Majesties return, then we must accept that and end the party. Would you like to take your prize now? Yes. The Duchess gestured over the servant with the prize and handed the leg to me. I hope you enjoy the rest of all, and Her Majesty the White Queen do come visit whenever you would like to talk with me again. The Duchess departed with her servant following after her. Just as quickly as she left, the chest sails were cleared away. I looked toward the White Queen, touching her hand to gain her attention. Her hand felt cold. Do you want to stay for longer? The White Queen shook her head. I've had enough excitement for the day. Thank you for inviting me, Alice. Although the last game of chess was nerve-wracking, I enjoyed spending today with you. No, thank you for coming here with me. It felt the same. We found a servant to leave and we redirected outward. Here, retrieved the sealed box with our entrance fee and handed it over. I will leave you with the limb. You want to meet with the Red Queen again? That's a difficult question, Alice. I see. I already understood that she had a complicated relationship with the Red Queen, but I wanted her to look at me instead. Alice was right in front of her. No, at the very least I wanted her to smile, without looking at something so far away. Because surely the person she was looking toward was the Red Queen, who had already been dismembered. We parted ways. Taking a wrong turn, I exited to a garden, and at the far end of the garden was an exit. I turned back to ask the White Queen to find that she had already gone. This must have been the Duchess's garden, seeing as I had just come from her manor. I strolled through the garden, appreciating the flowers and greenery, yet I couldn't help but compare it to the White Queen's garden. I'll go visit the White Queen again. Without much further ado, I made my way through the garden exit. Not taking even 5 steps out, I stumbled. A sudden vertigo struck me, and I must have had a long day. I reasoned as I held a hand to my forehead while trying to steady myself. My brain spun like a sloshed up pit of mud. I must have forgotten something very important. I leaned back against a tree to take a break, looking upward, eyelids flickering. I wondered if the sky had always looked so far away. My frame, propped against the bark, slid downward unconsciously. I can't read. I closed my eyes for a moment. Darkness. At some point, I made my way back to the Hatter's place. Hello, Hatter. I handed over the limb I had just obtained. At least from what I could tell from the passage of time, it should have been only recently that I had taken this limb from its past owner. I didn't know. Hatter took the limb and threw it into the dark cage with all the others. With this, you've gathered all of Her Majesty's limbs. Oh, so I have. You look terrible right now, Alice. Like us. I'm tired. Take a nap. Tea time isn't going anywhere, not unless time grows back its severed head and walks away, don't you think? We can always talk a little later. Thank you. I stumbled back to my armchair, sinking to the oddly scented cushions. Good night, Alice. This may be the last. I almost feel a little sorry, but Dormouse March, I won't stop. I didn't hear what the Hatter said afterward over the raging white noise of my headache. My vision blurred, eyes becoming watery, eyelids heavy. I fell asleep. Then I was dreaming, falling to the dream. Tick-tock, tick-tock, I dreamed of a throne. A dark and terrible throne, so horribly cold. It was such a lonely throne, but the eye on the throne was arrogant and happy and to be alone. No, I thought even she had someone she loved. Beautiful person, yes, the person she loved was a beautiful person, so fragile and beautiful that she wanted to slowly turn off the person's wings. But her love was strong. If she wasn't happy, then she would lose everything. Alice, you are exactly this person. No, I wasn't, was I? So I opened my eyes to speak. Blood began to leak through my lips. The only sound that came out was an empty gurgle. Were you happy? No. I could not talk, I could not taste, even though red dripped down my chin. I felt as if my tongue had been snipped out, blood chokingly gasping, and nothing but liquid I grasped in my throat. Alice, I was now drowning in this dream. You were never happy, never. When I woke, I forgot all that I dreamt of. Something that doesn't seem very obvious at all. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind disoriented. I nearly rolled off of my armchair in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, ripping the bridge of my nose. I blinked again, chasing away a haze. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. In the meanwhile, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. It was a cake with cream and fruits, 2-layered even, with flowers and pictures carved up with the food ingredients. I could only call it a pretty cake. Just in time for tea, Alice. I got up from my armchair and the Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. She stared at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. The flame glowed on the head of the match for just a few seconds. After setting the candle, she began clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. Happy on birthday to you. Happy on birthday to you. Happy on birthday, dear Alice. A terrible offbeat, off-balance song. She sang and her voice warped as she said her name. She said my name. Today, a certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. Happy on birthday to you. I didn't understand. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song with a small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. What is this for, Hatter? Certainly today was on my birthday. Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You get a special prize for bringing me all 4 rooms, Alice. Since it's not your birthday, it must be your unbirthday. All 364 days of the year. Picking up a knife, she cut out a slice of cake. Slid over me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon enough she poured me a cup of tea that too came rushing over. I noticed the hammer on the table right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The calming scent of the tea wafted to my nose and mixed with sweet milky cream. Sweet sweat? What? Sweet milky cream. The celebratory cake slice looked so charming I almost felt it a shame to eat. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. This is my favorite. After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate that, I placed the box before me. Open your present, Alice. Chop it open. Smash it open. Any way you'd like. Now we get back to the box. I surveyed the box, an odd and plain box, just big enough to swallow an animal from the outside. I couldn't tell what might lie inside. I could open a small gap, afraid a disturbed book could be hidden inside. Shadows blocked my vision, and I saw nothing, but I heard a low, gurgling, drowning sound. Strange, strangled voice, one that sent a chill rolling up my neck. Throbbing headache hit me again. In one go, I flung the lid off. That's not how it looked last time. Inside was a head, a bloodied head. I mean, it's still a head, but it wasn't facing me last time. Huh? A head, a woman's head, a girl's head, a head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face, a much too foreign face. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at, even as the world seemed to shift around me. Alice, you knew who that face belonged to. Alice, whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet, tobacco only to fall back into the armchair from my loss of equilibrium. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine, just almost. It seemed like it would be very obvious it just seemed very obvious. I clutched my neck and touched my face to make sure that it was still there. This was the Red Queen. This was Alice. This was a severed head, Alice. Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from this so-called prize that the Hatter had given me. Blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. How terrible. I reached a trembling hand to touch it. But it wasn't my place. I tried to close her eyes or put her to peace. The head was still moving, twisting with a squelch and squish. Its sweat, ragged sounds of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I jerked my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away. I want you glad you needn't find your poor Matchie's head. As if laughing at me, as if she didn't truly mean that, with an odd tilt in her voice as she spoke of the Red Queen, that had confirmed the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flinging the dock edge open and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, I began to flail and grab at Hatter. This time she was prepared and grabbed her hammer. Hatter! With a pair of loud bangs, she hammered nails through the corpse's hands into the Red Queen's chair. Red dripped to the ground. The hands twitched. Her body writhed. The ghostly pain ran up my arms as my stomach churned. I felt dizzy. What? Hatter? I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing through my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice, that was why you were worthless. Ask something, anything. I touched my face to see if my lips had curled up without me thinking so. Didn't you want to leave this place? Now you found the Red Queen. Red Hatter. If you have something you'd like to talk with her about, I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over, chair scraping on the ground with a hideous squeal, and stopped only when I sat face to face with the headless, shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it onto the body. The skin and meat deformed, contorting till the pieces of neck met exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together with something unnatural crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse's throat connected. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized that I hadn't ever asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon an answer the same way I found all the limbs. This was the Red Queen. Alice, this was me. The requests I had been pondering on, the wishes to go back home, the want to ask her for help, they all flew out of my mind, because this wasn't right. The face I was looking at, battered and bloody as it appeared, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words, yet making no sound besides the hollow whistle of a crushed throat. The Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Her tongue was missing, and we had to do something about that. There's still more to this. Okay. Where is the tongue? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbled with a pulsing pressure in the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Hatter, where is the Red Queen's tongue? I didn't want to hear her voice, so I tore it out and fed it to the dogs. The Red Queen wasn't complete without her tongue, although she squirmed in the chair, causing the nails to creak. It seemed like she didn't truly have her soul. Alex, you were so close. The corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. That should mean I needn't bother searching for it then. What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face and of the various gossips I overheard on the ruler. Alice. Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. What do you think? Let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was Your Majesty now. A long time ago, in this corner of Wonderland, lived a group of 3 friends, a mouse, a hare, and a hatter. We lived far away from bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats and they did mouse and hare things. Once we had been dragged to perform like clowns with visitors to this kingdom, but only that once. For Her Majesty hasn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran the court of law, a strict queen. Some called her a mad queen, some whispered a tyrant. Most could not even dare to say. I think the story should be predictable, don't you? We were called into court one day, the reason maybe only to be judged. She proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. I, for no reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing a thing. Thrown into prison and starved. Only just that much when I came out. The streets were filled with newly spilt blood, and 2 very familiar heads rolled my way. Crows feasted on carrion, only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's guards. Do I need to explain further? Perhaps you really are blind and deaf. Dormouse and March Hare are dead. For what? For the sole crime of offending our world's tyrant. And so Hatter had been all alone for a long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen, but she went and up and died. Who let her get away like that so easily? You who are the same entity as the Red Queen, I can't let you go, don't you understand? Hatter, for the sake of my revenge, you have to die, Alice. She spun the hammer in her hands, her face devoid of mirth as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with her mismatched pair. This is my justice, Alice. Goodbye, Alice. Goodbye. She raised that hammer in her hand above my head. Why did she look like she was about to cry? And I was falling. I was falling down the rabbit hole with no start or end. I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if going back in time. I re-experienced the pain of having my head caved in with a hammer. I was going mad. A wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter, rolling down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland once more. Alice? First person to greet me once more. The White Rabbit. I grabbed at my head only to find no injuries, no red, no longer able to differentiate between dream and reality. I questioned if I had merely been hallucinating the whole time. Then I was falling again. I died again. Alice? Each time I fell, I came back down. Alice! It had been a hazy world, a distorted world of blood that was beginning to lose its colors. Time and time again, falling. I seemed to revert the hourglass and turn back the the clock, each time going into another past. Before I knew it, the rabbit had changed. Your Majesty? She was a bit more polite. Your Majesty, perhaps a bit more cruel in her eyes, but less restrained with the darkness in her gut. She called out to me each and every time. Your Majesty! The rabbit was my starting point, my saving point. Falling, falling, falling. I kept falling uncontrollably, falling, landing, dying, falling. No, I never felt as if I had control of even my own body anymore. My world flickered on and on. It hurt. Dying hurt. I didn't want to deal with this anymore, Alice. You had to deal with this. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Again, I fell. I felt my body on the ground with hazy eyes. I saw a familiar figure and heard it speak with a familiar voice as murmurs reached my ears from all around. Her face and her words, not a single thing I could make out. Before I even got the chance to see the rapid of growing familiar sensation struck me. Pain or sharp agony burned in my arms till I suddenly could not feel my fingers, and the same came to my legs. Chop, chop, there they went. A limb or two or three or four, off they went, until suddenly I had none for myself. Soon a blade cut through my neck, sawing as it got stuck and stabbing again and again, till they had finally came off, and I was falling again. Drowning through the flesh, clogging my throat as it all reattached, I came to a realization. Oh, I understood. Alice, what had you understood? I was done. I'd certainly gone mad. I couldn't handle this anymore. Even if I still wanted to go home, it wouldn't do me any good anyhow. Maybe this was a dream, an illusion. Just how long was I supposed to keep falling? Unless you would never awaken from this dream. Then I was falling again. I decided to stop thinking, and only keep falling. Tick, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. I opened my eyes to a courtroom with an air of fear. I was simply watching through another's eyes, sitting in the back of her head without a single meaningful thing in my mind. I was watching. Your Majesty. My body moved without me thinking to do anything. I no longer cared to do anything. My body talked without me thinking to say anything. I no longer cared to say anything. It doesn't matter. If I could have, I would have stopped watching. It was not because the sights were horrific, but because I no longer wanted to deal with anything and everything, not even the matters of the Red Queen. A dog, a cat, a bird, a girl, a boy, a person who was neither, a mother, a father, an elderly. One by one they came to be judged. Some begged, some cried, some fought, some silently accepted their fate. The rabbit read out their accused crimes for show, allowing for the Red Queen to proceed. However, there existed only one result: guilty. At some point she began to laugh. At some point I began to laugh. Yeah, laughing. As a ruler, I have sovereignty over my citizens, and at the same time a responsibility to make this kingdom prosper. A prosperous kingdom must have law and order. Do you understand? Off to the gallows. Be glad for mercy, criminal. Glory to her majesty for her benevolence. Cards, bring the next one in for her majesty. The accused was reported by her brother-in-law for engaging in gossip and planning treason against the crown by speaking ill of her majesty. A simple sentence, a simple beheading for this bird. Bring her away. Cards. The accused was caught evading taxes. She was also seen stealing from upright citizens, assaulting merchants, and spreading rumors about her majesty's state of mind. She was only apprehended recently, as the Cards were unable to capture her previously. Break her legs. Your Majesty is truly brilliant. As for her sentence, cut off her arms so that she can't commit crimes any longer while she reaches the afterlife. Throw her into prison to await execution by skinning. What will a cat rug look like without arms? Criminal skin is too much rougher than rug. Off with the cat. She seemed to think for a moment and snapped her fingers, rendering the cat's arms from her body in an instant. And execute the Cards who failed to catch her before, we have no need for worthless cards. Next. The Red Queen, I didn't know if she was happy. While she convicted the accused, I inadvertently began to lose track of my surroundings, only to be jolted back by a particularly interesting sentence. The accused. Before I finished speaking, the accused rushed at the Red Queen. The Red Queen gestured with her hand, and unseen power slammed the criminal down to the ground, creating a crack in the marble floor of the courtroom. Presumptuous. The force tore fingertip-sized meat piece by piece from the criminal, leaving it and writhing on the floor as I rolled around trying to get her to stop. Have you forgotten who you belong to? The Red Queen finished once the criminal was ripped into a pile of red pulp on the ground to be swept away by the carts. I was smiling. The Red Queen was smiling. Next, the day in court continued until the courtroom was devoid of life. Oh my god. This is going to be such a long video. She worked on paperwork after court. Between stacks, she conversed with ministers who sweat nervously each time she met their beady eyes. Finishing up her important documents, she proceeded to go for a brisk walk and practice swinging a sword here and there. Bringing the Red Queen a towel and water, the rabbit asked if she wanted to visit the White Queen today, which the Red Queen decided against. Dinner time arrived soon enough. He sat in a large dining room at the head of a long table all alone. A sumptuous meal was served with red wine before her, but she had no one to share it with. The food tasted alright. More importantly, it had been poisoned. The chef used just a little too much so that the meat began to lose its charm and turn to mediocrity. The Red Queen called the chef over. Her eyes darted around the room wildly, knowing that he had nowhere to escape. His legs shook and he fell to his knees, beginning to beg. The Red Queen took a sword from the decorative suit of armor in the room. Ow, that was loud. Off with his head for daring to poison the queen. Watching as the servants quickly clean. My brain cannot do it. Watching as the servants cleaned away the chef's remains, she returned to her meal, which had been quickly replaced. She drank a sip of wine, poisoned wine. Next day, she returned to the courtroom. One by one, the numbers diminished again. Even those in the jury were not spared if they made us the slightest slight. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the names of criminals who were to be executed. Not a few times she took the job herself, an axe in hand and boots squelching in blood. The Red Queen enjoyed her judgment court. Wonderland was her domain and its people her pieces. If they became disobedient, then she would never let them throw her possessions into disarray. Some days she didn't go, working on governance. Other days she did, working on her world's peace. These times continued until one day the Red Queen fell asleep and I was still awake. Curling my fingers, I discovered I was in control. I walked over to the balcony, seeing the ground terribly far away. I lifted myself over the balustrade and threw myself off. Air rushed past my face. Splat. Falling. I was falling again back through time. The interstice between the different times and different worlds was still incomprehensible as before. My body knitted together from its mingled form, and I returned to Wonderland. Falling, I fell straight into a table. Bam! I returned to an iteration of the Hatter's place. Sprawled out on the table, I glanced upward and saw the familiar pair of mismatched eyes. Familiar. Do I know you? No, not quite. Could you get off the table? I do need to put down the tea and snacks at some point, if you understand. The Hatter seemed different, as if a heavy weight had yet to settle on her shoulders. I got off the table and stood awkwardly around the unfamiliar place. The Hatter set down her teapot. She was preparing a tea party of sorts, causing me to realize that I had never seen her do setup, as things were always already on the table. What's your name? Alice. I'm Alice. You should be Hatter. Mm-hmm. There's somewhere you need to go so badly that you nearly broke my table? No, I'm nowhere. Well, why don't you take a seat? No one uses that armchair over there. Much too armchair, they said. You know how armchairs are, right? I hesitantly approached my armchair. The chair looked newer than in my before. My brain could not process that sentence. When I sat on it, I sank into the soft cushions, even though it reminded me of a hammer through my skull. The chair did nothing wrong. I clutched my chest. You aren't having tea. What time is it? This person hated me. Perhaps she did not hate me yet in the moment that we were meeting now, but she hated me all the same in the future, in the present. I should not have cared, but my heart hurt. The clock says 15 minutes before 4. It's almost tea time. Maybe it already is. I'm waiting for a Martian dormouse. So it's surely not yet tea time. Tea time, after all, is just a state of mind. I see. Look sad, Alice. Do I? Raised my hand to my face, touching my cheek. I certainly was not smiling. What's your favorite tea? She retrieved the tea set, 2 plates on the table, bringing not 3 cups but 4. 1 cup and saucer was put before me. I enjoy black tea. Recently I've grown fond of Earl Grey. What about you, Hatter? I like any tea, but I also rather like Earl Grey. I'm not sure why it's an Earl rather than a court or a duke, count or duke, but I'm sure the tea tastes best at an Earl. I've heard that it's named after a minister. Or perhaps the minister was named after a tea. Fancy that. Your name is Grey. Certain majesty tells you to become Earl Grey. The Hatter looked happier. A film of water built up over my vision, turning it blurry. Must have gotten something in my eyes. A hiccup bubbled in my throat. The water wouldn't stop. Why are you crying? Tears rolled down my cheeks as I hurriedly tried to wipe them away with my hands. I cannot explain. This is so odd. Eat cake. Do you like cake? Would you rather have a sandwich or maybe something salty? If you're lacking in salt and sugar, you'd go a little crazy like that. She poured me a cup of tea and passed me some cake. With a set of utensils she was just getting out. It tastes good. During drinking the tea and eating the cake, I noticed a much more amateurish flavor than the future Hatter would make. However, it tasted good and maybe it tasted happier. My shoulders shook up and down for a while. I cried for the longest time I had cried since I was a toddler, rubbing my eyes pink. Once the tears stopped, I cleared my throat and averted my eyes from the Hatter. Compliments to you, Hatter. Why, thank you. We sat together in a peaceful silence for a while afterward, before she turned her head and exclaimed, There they are. Oh, the sleepy little mouse and a hare with the straw hat approached from the forest paths. They looked just like the little puppets my Hatter wore often on our hands. Looking at me in curiosity, they took their seats at the table. A guest? Looks like a pest. Don't be rude, March. 3 is already a crowd. No room. Here's a crowd before it's a party. If we get 5, then, well, we can think about that later. Don't make a girl cry, March. This is Alice. This is March Hare, and this is Dormouse. Hatter poured some tea for both of them, and they began to chat, glancing toward me, taking me into the conversation, even as their ramblings devolved into nonsense. Halfway through each topic, the Dormouse seemed to sneeze off and dip her little nose into her tea by accident. Did Hatter make you cry, Alice? She's a lady killer, she is. I've always known it. Dormouse, wake up for the gossip. I'm right here, March. She looks like butter. It's the yellow hair. Butter. She looks a little silly, like her brain's been all churned up, but she looks like good butter. I couldn't help but crack a slight smile at their antics. More sunny than buttery. Do you want butter, Alice? No, thank you. I'm butter, right? That aside, Alice. The March Hare and Dormouse pulled me to the side for a private conversation. Hatter seems to fancy you. Not so directly. Don't raise your voice, Dormouse. Shh. That's usually my line, March. You can't own lines, how can you? March is right. That Hatter looks fondly upon you. You do seem nice. Kinda dumb. She seems nice. I still approve. I'm just saying, alright? Be kind to Hatter. Be good to our Hatter. We can't be around her forever, so you have to promise us, Alice. I have a feeling that this is very important. Swear on a stick of holy butter. I won't be here for very long, but no, I promise. I swear on everything that could ever be precious to me that I will treat her well if we meet again. And she's back to bed, Dormouse. We returned to the Hatter. The four of us continued chatting over tea. I enjoyed tea time today, I really did, yet I didn't belong here. I didn't deserve here either. I knew that my presence would just throw everything into disarray. Finishing my tea, I stopped the Hatter from refilling my cup. I had a wonderful time today. I have to leave. This place isn't mine, but thank you for the tea again, Hatter. You too, March Dormouse. It's nice meeting you, Alice. I already knew you from the future, but I was also happy to see you, Hatter. It was a shame that my Hatter didn't feel the same way. Alice, what did you feel for the Hatter? Something precious. See you later. I wanted her to be happy. Auf Wiedersehen. Giving her a weak wave, I left the happier Hatter. I didn't particularly have a place to go home. That was no longer my goal. Walking away, I wiped away the tears that welled up again. Venturel's falling again? I died. That much I understand. However, I seem to have forgotten how I died this time. This last time, in a way, I knew I couldn't keep doing this. Unless this was your last iteration, the power letting you keep falling had already run out. The next time, you wouldn't come back to Wonderland at any time. As my body pieced itself back into place, I waited for myself to stop falling and burst back into my relative present and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me and cut my fingers on their blades. Above me, the sky was terribly blue. No matter who I was, the world would move on without me. However, people could not so simply move on. Be it a matter of hate or a matter of love, or just a matter of apathy, the connections people had were difficult to sever. For I realized that a certain person had set into my heart. I want to see Hatter. My Hatter. Unless you really are no good. It's better to say that I really am no good. I had already fallen for that Mad Hatter. She wormed her way into my heart unintentionally as she threw me on a wild duck chase for the Red Queen's dismembered parts and her revenge. I wondered how she felt now that she had her goal fulfilled. The final look on her face that I saw before I died was painful. It was a painful one, not because of the crushing of my skull, but because of the constrictions of my heart as I looked at her. A strange girl, a lonely girl, ultimately a terribly kind girl who was stumbling along a bloody path. That was who the Hatter was. I'm sorry. I pushed myself up. Useless Alice had not one of obligation, not one of what should be. Because really, had I really wanted to go home, not one that tutors or anyone forced upon her. I went to find the Hatter, started walking, and started running. There she was, all by lonesome. The bags under her eyes had not lightened at all, and she listlessly played with a teacup until she suddenly saw me. Why? She actually stood up. Why did you come back? Why can't you just disappear? Grabbing the plate off the table, ignoring the pastry atop it, she chucked it at me. The smash. The plate brushed me and shattered on the ground, leaving a mangled lump of sweets and porcelain. Alice. She slammed the table, originally forcing her hands down with great momentum before suddenly slowing down as she smacked it. Wincing, the Hatter let out a pained guttural noise. Why are you like this? I hate you, Alice. She clutched her chest and glared at me with murky, watery eyes. Why are you like this? I had no answer. You're contradictorily cruel and kind. You're messed up, Alice. Just choose one thing to be, you heartless woman. I like you, but I also hate you. I also liked her. I loved her. You're a useless freeloader who just comes to bother me, a waste of space. You're Alice who always accompanies me and extends a hand to me. You're the Red Queen, monster killer. I hate you. Why couldn't you have properly just died? I killed you. You're the same thing as the Red Queen. You shouldn't have come back. You picked up a teacup and threw it at me, smashing me right in the forehead. I stumbled back. Hot tea spilled down me, mixing with the blood that came from the simple flesh wound. The cup itself shattered into tiny pieces on the ground. Go away. She grabbed the bloody hammer off the table and flung it, missing me by a far margin. It whooshed through the air, spinning, and lodged itself deeply into a tree behind me. My blood was still on the metal face. Tell me who you're supposed to be. I am Alice. The Red Queen and I are one and the same, but I am Alice. Her essence is intertwined with mine, but I am me and me alone. I'm scared of the idea that we could become the same. I never wanted to become someone like her, an empty heart, an empty life. Even as she lashes out at the rest of the world, she's still empty. Admittedly, I'm also no good. I'm a heartless person who hurts others as well, but I just hold two certainties. I am Alice, Alice is me. And for the I who am Alice, you are the person who took my heart. Is it okay to say I'm Alice? I nervously fiddled my fingers behind my back, looking at the Hatter as my heart raced. I couldn't read her expression behind those mismatched eyes. She wiped her eyes with her sleeves, opening her mouth time and time again. She seemed to have trouble finding her words. I like the Alice who is Alice. The Red Queen scares me, but if you would let me believe it, I want to believe that you are Alice. Ever since marching dormouse left, time had stopped at heat time like a curse. I'm tired of tea. Is my life just for revenge on the Red Queen? She looked up at the sky as if lost. The Red Queen is dead. Deliberately mouthing the words slowly again, she seemed to convince herself of that reality. Then she looked back toward me. Alice, you are Alice. Her voice grew small and she gazed downward to her feet. I hurt you. I know. I extended a hand toward her. She who was all alone, she who stood so close yet so far away. I wanted for her sake to take my hand. We were both problem children. Perhaps I was a little mad. She slowly walked before me, looking at my hand as if seeing something foreign. Lifting her arm up, she reached out her hand lovingly, shakingly. What did I think? I'm losing my mind recording for this long. Her hand trembled and hovered over my head, and for a moment she retracted her hand. Then she placed her hand in mine. I love you, Hatter. Alice. She stared at me, trying to discern the truth of my words. With a deep shaky breath, she gave me her response. I love you too. Would you accompany for a dance, give me a kiss, and make me happy? She asked of me just 3 things. I can't make you happy. I wish that I could fulfill all 3 of her requests. A physical item or a physical deed, those I could accomplish, but one of the heart, I knew not if I could. I don't know if we can make each other happy, but I placed a kiss upon her lips. That's fine, even if I have no ability to promise such things. I want to let you be happy. You are my dearest, precious person. I want you to be happy, Alice. That makes me happy. Not just like this. More so. I took her hand and we danced upon the table, spinning about, our feet tangled with the tablecloth and the tea set strewn about. Hatter, if the world were to end tomorrow, what would you do? I have nothing left here for me, Alice. So I suppose I would do nothing. You're still right here with me, aren't you? She was so late. I wish I could show you my world. It's not a particularly spectacular world, rather it's utterly unfantastical. Yet there were things that I liked. Maybe my siblings were better. The 2 cats, if you care for cats at all. I would have liked that. I pulled her along, leading the mad dance. With no music, we moved to the heroic tempo of our hearts together. Alice, why did you fall in love with me? Maybe it was just fate. Maybe it was just luck. Meeting you time and time again here, I grew fonder and fonder of you. At first, I simply thought you were lonely, but eventually I fell in love with your heart. Love. I never known about love before. I'm not sure if I can truly explain why my heart beats as it does for you, Hatter. Even that aside, you're cute. I can cook and sew and brew good tea. You're warm. You're actually rather kind. What about you to me? I should ask that to you instead. Happiness, probably we had no such fate, but we wished for it. Finally, we fell. Falling. We were falling down this rabbit hole with no start nor end. We were falling together. I knew not where we would fall, for there was no more wonderlands for us to fall to. The world we just fell from had been the very last iteration. I embraced Hatter and closed my eyes. How warm she was, the person who I treasured. I only asked for a world where we could be happy together. Surely we could meet again in a land much more wonderful than this. Somewhere, sometime, surely. Please be the end. I've been recording. It is the end. Oh, thank you. I've been recording. Oh, I didn't expect to record for over an hour. I went too deep because I was like, okay, yeah, I'll finish it. 'Cause I wasn't expecting to record for another hour. I just wanted to. I was expecting to maybe 15-20 minutes, because it was like, oh, getting the last of the limbs and such. No, it's nope. And it was a lot longer than that. So, yeah. This was good. I really did enjoy. Did enjoy this. The Alice ending. I know there are probably other endings I can do that aren't just bad endings as well, like dead ends. I've only seen only 63%. What the? That was the last episode. This was the last episode for Who is the Red Queen? Again, I wasn't expecting to be recording for over an hour again. Why do I have this bad habit of doing that? I plan to record the final thing for a game, a visual novel, and it ends up being this freaking long. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you did, check out other stuff I do over here on the side. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.